Thanks for being patient. We had initially planned on doing this about 9 o'clock. We had some information that really started to come in about 9 o'clock. We wanted to vet that information, really get it established to come out and give you guys some better information. So as you all know, we're here because of a shooting that we had, a mass shooting that we had at the Inland Regional Center just up the street here. Latest count is we have 14 people that are confirmed dead. We have 17 people that are wounded. Initial information was 14. That number is now 17 that is wounded. I don't know the status of the wounded in terms of numbers that are serious or critical or what that is at this point. And then afterwards, we had an investigation. One of the tips that we were following up on took us to a house in Redlands where we made contact with a suspect vehicle that we were looking for. That resulted in a pursuit, which ultimately came back into the city of San Bernardino. And on San Bernardino Avenue between Richardson and Mountain View Avenue, that pursuit terminated. There was an officer-involved shooting. Last count, I've been told that we had 20 or 21 officers that were involved in that gun battle with the suspects. The two suspects that were in that car are both deceased, and I have their names. First one has been identified as Syed, S-Y-E-D, Rizwan, R-I-Z-W-A-N, Lasta Farouk, F-A-R-O-O-K. He is 28 years old. I am told that he is U.S. born. The person that was with him is a female. She is deceased as well. Her name is Tashfeen, T-A-S-H-F-E-E-N, last of Malik, M-A-L-I-K. She is 27 years old. I do not have any additional information on where she is from at this point. The reason and how we came across that, and I'll just kind of talk about the investigation a little bit. I'll talk about the investigation a little bit. There was some questions that you guys asked in an earlier press conference about a person that had left the meeting angry. This was a meeting, Christmas party type event that was taking place with San Bernardino County employees at the Inland Regional Center. Mr. Farouk is a county employee. He works with his title as an environmental specialist in the public health department, has been employed there for 5 years. He was at the party. He did leave the party early under some circumstances that were described as angry or something of that nature. That is the information that we were following up on when we encountered him back near this residence in Redlands, which led to the pursuit and the officer-involved shooting. And as we've now confirmed, he is one of the deceased. A little bit about the response that we had, some questions that were asked earlier. From the time that we received our first 911 call of a shooting taking place inside the residence or inside the business, the Inland Regional Center, to the time the first police unit arrived on scene was 4 minutes. Almost immediately after our arrival, we had multiple units arriving, and they immediately entered the building, as I said, responding to an active shooter type situation where they encountered victims and they were in search of the suspects. Multiple teams of officers were going into those various buildings and doing that. From the time that we were able to start extracting those victims, which was a few minutes after we had cleared the first rooms and where we found the victims, to the time from the time we extracted them, got them to the triage center just outside of the business where they were treated by paramedics and then transported to the hospital was about 15 minutes. So it was fairly fast for a situation such as this. So with that, any questions?
You know the relationship between the two dead suspects?
We have gone back and forth between information that they were married or that they were engaged, but there was a relationship. I don't have it definitive as to exactly what that is now.
The gentleman that you're holding now and questioning, how does he fit into this?
You know, I have not been able to get an update as to whether or not that person was involved. As I said before, when the officer-involved shooting occurred, the initial officers that we had information from did not see anybody specifically fleeing the vehicle. It was other responding vehicles that saw this person running away from the scene, stopped them and detained him. For that reason, we don't know if he was involved or what his involvement is at this point.
What is the motive at this point?
Can you tell?
So we initially put out that we had information that there were upwards of 3 shooters. Right now, as we continue to drill down on information and the witness statements that we have, it really looks like we have 2 shooters, and we're pretty comfortable that the 2 shooters that we believe went into the building are the 2 shooters that are deceased up on San Bernardino Avenue.
Chief, how many places have you searched thus far, and what connection do those places have to these two?
So we have this crime scene. We have the crime scene up on San Bernardino Avenue. We have a house in Redlands, which is where the pursuit originated, where our information took us to. That's being actively worked as well. And as I said, Mr. Farouk was a county employee, so we have obviously secured his office space in case that has any component to the investigation.
Do you have his date of birth? The Redlands, is there a residence? Is that a residence of his specifically?
It is a residence listed for him. I don't know if he was living there.
Chief, what was the motive then? What's the motive for all
We don't have the motive at this point, and I'm really being careful because we all know that when these types of things happen, and we've seen this happen time and time again, there's a lot of information that comes out in the first day, in the first couple days, and that information changes significantly in the days that follow. So until we know the motive, or we really have something clear evidentiary based on that motive, I just don't want to weigh in on that right now.
act of terrorism at this point?
Chief, have you ruled out terrorism at this point? Is that still on the table?
We have not ruled out terrorism.
Chief, is there any evidence
So
that
I'm sorry.
supervisors were killed?
Either boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife, something of that nature.
Any evidence for that Mr. Farouk's supervisors or bosses were killed in that shootout there?
So I had indicated early on that we have victims at the scene. Up until within, I would say, the last couple of hours, we had been working on what we felt were explosive devices left at the scene. We confirmed that we believe that those were explosive devices. I think about an hour or two ago, the bomb squad finally disposed of those particular items. So we are just now getting in there and starting to process the crime scene per se. I don't have the identification on any of the victims at this point.
You know what precipitated the
I don't know what precipitated it. I don't
He's
know.
not going to know. Have all the
Townhouse, can you say that he arrived 25 days ago with a man and another woman, and that they were seen with getting packages?
Mr. Farouk has been a county employee for 5 years.
Can you say that he was at that townhouse for the past arrived about 25 days ago?
I don't know that.
Chief, do you have the date of birth on Mr.
He was born in the United States.
Thank you. Do you have the date of birth on Mr. Farouk?
The exact date of birth, I don't. Born in 1987.
Chief, are you now certain that there is not a third suspect and there is not a third shooter still out there?
So we are reasonably confident at this point that we had 2 shooters and we have 2 dead suspects, and as I said, they were armed. I do have information on what they were armed with. Both suspects were armed with what was essentially a .223 caliber assault rifle. One was called a DPMS model A15. The other was a Smith & Wesson MMP 15 model. And then both suspects also were armed with semi-automatic handguns. One was manufactured by Llama, and the other was manufactured by Smith & Wesson.
Did Farouk purchase any of those weapons?
I'm going to leave that. ATF is doing the workup on those weapons, and I'll let them weigh in on that later on when they've had time to do that part of their investigation.
Chief, about the explosive devices, I'm sorry I couldn't hear you. Were there explosive devices found on the scene?
There were at the shooting scene here at the Inland Regional Center, there were devices that we felt were explosive devices. They have been disposed of.
How many were there, Chief?
3 of them were all together.
Chief, are we naming the woman at this point?
I did.
Can you say it one more time?
The woman's name is Tashfeen, Tashfeen, last of Malik, Malik, 27 years old.
Any criminal records on either one of them?
What are they telling you? The family members? Have you been in contact with them?
I personally have not been in contact with them. We are in contact with a number of family members, so they are being interviewed, but I don't know what their statements have been.
Criminal records on either one of them?
I don't have any information on criminal records.
Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how much time elapsed between the time Mr. Farouk left the event and then returned?
Not the exact time. I've been given figures anywhere from 10 minutes to a half an hour. I don't know if that's true yet.
Was the woman present at this event as well?
I have not been told that.
Chief, was this a planned out event or a spur of the moment that happened after an argument at the party?
I think that based upon what we have seen and based upon how they were equipped, there had to have been some degree of planning that went into this. So I don't think they just ran home, put on these types of tactical clothes, grabbed guns, and came back on a spur-of-the-moment thing.
Were they saying anything during the shooting?
We don't have information that they said anything.
Any additional indication of the motive?
Anything connected?
We don't have a motive at this point.
Chief, is there anything in this attack that's connecting it to ISIS?
Sorry?
To ISIS? Is there any
Any connection?
We are still searching that motive component of it. We do not have information on that, and I'm not going to weigh in on that part.
This has undoubtedly been a tough time for the city. What's your message to the residents as they go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow to this really setting in news? What is planned in the future?
So the message, not only for the city, but for this entire region, is we understand people are scared, and we understand that there's concern that there may be more folks out there. Rest assured, we are doing everything we can. We have brought every single asset to the table that we have available in this city, in this county, in this state, and with the help of the federal government to do everything that we can to make people safe here. If we get information that we think that there's another potential threat or something that people need to be concerned about, we will put that information out to protect people.
Do you believe that there are others involved or there's
Situation at the
accomplices?
Redlands home. Has that been?
That is still an active investigation down there, and we are not far enough into that investigation where I'm comfortable putting anything out about it yet.
Is it believed that the
Live
female
there,
suspect
sir?
lived there with Farouk as well?
We have indications. I don't know where exactly they live. We have multiple addresses for them. One of the addresses was the Redlands. I don't know if they were living there or if for some reason it was just something that they had listed or if it was another family members. I don't know that yet.
Chief, are you aware if suspect Farouk was invited to this party and was supposed to be at this party originally, or if he just showed up spontaneously and that's what caused the anger?
So it is my understanding that he is a county employee that was part of the party or the event that was taking place, and he had attended the same event last year.
And this was a party, not a training session?
I've been told it is both, anywhere from a meeting to kind of a Christmas meeting gathering luncheon that this county office was having.
Is there any evidence that his job was in jeopardy?
I don't have any information on that.
Chief, the explosives that were found, were they pipe bombs? Were they propane tanks? Were they complicated devices?
I don't know exactly. I think we're leaning a little bit more towards like a pipe bomb type design, but specifically what it was made of, I don't have that right now.
Did law enforcement have any previous interaction with the suspects?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any indications of others involved or accomplices?
We are still working that angle and reaching out to any and all contacts and folks that they may have had, and that's still a part of the ongoing investigation.
Any other weapons? Any other weapons or explosive devices found in the vehicle?
So I gave you everything we had in the vehicle.
Oh.
So the rifles that I listed.
Is that possible that the same built into the media?
What's that?
The same built into the media.
I can't understand you.
I mean the Inland Regional Center. Is that possible to open to media sometime?
At some point, we will render the area a little more safe, and we will compress the crime scene down. And at some point, we will allow the media in to get, some closer shots of the building. But until we're at that point, I'm not willing to do it now. I would imagine maybe sometime overnight or sometime tomorrow, we can start to compress that down for folks.
Were there some pipe bomb type devices found or thrown from the vehicle?
There was a device that was identified as that. We've rendered it safe, and I don't believe that was explosive in nature. So, folks, real quickly, I'm going to wrap this up. I do not know if we will have an additional press conference tonight. We have been talking to staff. We will probably come back out and address the press very earlier in the morning to address at least the East Coast morning news shows and stuff.
Your officers, obviously you said 20-some officers involved in that shooting. How are they holding up tonight, and how is your department?
Well, I think our department is stretched pretty thin, obviously. We're a decent-sized department, and, we can bring a lot of assets to the table, but something of this nature has stretched us pretty thin. We would not be doing nearly as well if it wasn't for our partners in the county with the Sheriff's Department, the allied agencies that are here to help, as well as the state and federal assets that are here. The officers involved, for the most part, are doing okay. They did their job. Quite frankly, if anybody heard that on the radio, that was flat-out heroic, what they did when they tracked down those suspects and engaged them. We did have one officer that was wounded. He is resting at a hospital tonight. He is expected to survive, and his injuries are not life-threatening. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.